Welcome to the Balanced Warrior podcast. I am Coach Paul Malella. I am here with Grandmaster and Coach Christopher Burlow. Good morning.
Good morning, Grandmaster Malella. Coach Grandmaster Malella, how are you?
Yes, thank you. I guess I can't, get rid of that title, but, I'm not an active martial art.
You are still a Grandmaster.
Yeah, that's I did earn that right.
You did.
Everyone, thank you for whether you're listening or watching this podcast show. We're so humbled and grateful for you to spend your time with us while we're here, and we're excited because Coach Chris has recently just came back from Korea for I think over 10 days.
Yeah, I was there for 10 days.
And I was happy and envious at the same time. Not envious that he was going to Korea again. I've been there 4 times. I kind of don't want to go back again. I want to see other parts of the world, but I was envious and actually happy for him because he did spend time, amazing time with our mentor, our teacher, and our Grandmaster Kim, Byung-Min Kim. And he gave me some high level stuff of what took place. We haven't really got into details yet since he's been back. But I said for the show, I think he should share to our audience, some highlights of his experience of the trip and share that with you. Now, most people watching or listening to the show may or may not be martial art practitioners or professionals. We cater ideally to entrepreneurs and myself to financial advisors working with, but I think some of the principles and some of the philosophies that Grandmaster Kim teaches us, and by the way, that's what we pass down in Empowered Mastery.
Right.
You hear us talk a lot about this life philosophy, Il Shin, which stands for be better every day. And in my world, that means, in your respected industry, in your respected world, that means let's be a 1%er. Let's be an uncommon human. I don't care if it's your industry, in the fitness, in marriages, and as a parent, be a 1%er, be an uncommon, and by raising your standard. And that's really what Grandmaster Kim life philosophy is. Now, conjunction with our philosophy of multi-dimensional success, right? Because being one-dimensional, in our opinion, isn't being successful. So we take, the Eastern and Western philosophies and we incorporate it into, our mission, right? Our worthy ideal, our teachings. And in a weird way, both Coach Chris and I want to pass down Grandmaster Kim's legacy. And that's really important to us. And it's really a part of what I think Coach Chris is going to share. So let me throw the ball back in your court, partner, and let's have a discussion on some of the highlights, some of the takeaways, and create some value bombs for the listeners and watchers of Balanced Warrior podcast.
I would be happy to. And first I want to say is, I spent this is the most that I think either of us would have ever spent with Grandmaster Kim. Basically, the highlight of my trip, which I would consider to be one of the most memorable experiences of my life, was 3 days and nights with Grandmaster Kim, just him and I, in the mountains, and going to 3 different mountains in Korea and doing overnight trainings each of those mountains. So I will get into a little more details, but it was really, it came about because he knew I was going, and he goes, well, maybe we could get together since I'm there. And he's living there now 9 months out of the year. And then I guess was it 3 months in California, but he's going there. And his purpose to be in Korea is, first of all, he loves the country. But is for his training and his grandmaster, what he would call his Susung which Susung Sabam means master instructor. Kwanji Nim in the martial arts is grandmaster. And Susung stands for teacher of life. So he follows and is a student of not a Taekwondo or martial arts master, but a meditation master that he refers to all of the time. And he says, yes, my Susugnim told me to take you to this mountain and this mountain and this mountain. And it is really wonderful. And I think the first nugget, I guess you can say, is that we all should continue to be a student, no matter what we are doing. And here he is. He's 75 years old. We were actually together, celebrated his birthday. But he's 75 years old. He's 20 years older than me, 24 years older than Paul. And he'll, when I texted Master Mertens, Mike Mertens, our other Balanced Warrior coach, I'm going to be going into mountains with Grandmaster Kim, the first thing he sent back is, good luck keeping up with him. Right? So he's 75, and it's true. It's true. But so that was like the highlight. But it started out, he said, why don't you come and don't go to the tour? It's my 6th time being in Korea. Let your students do the tour and then come with me in the mountains. And I said, yes, sir. I'm so grateful. But the first part of the seminar, one of the reasons why I went was because the host of the seminar, who also is very impressive, his name is Master Dae Sung Moon, and he's the Olympic gold medalist in Taekwondo in 2004 in Athens. He won the gold medal fight with a knockout. Just an incredibly humble, more than you could possibly imagine, and so passionate about the traditional values of Taekwondo. So anyway, he asked me to speak to the group. So I got to speak in front of 200 people. But Grandmaster Kim says, what are you speaking about? And I said, well, I'm going to share Il Shin philosophy. He goes, I want to go. I'm like, wow, okay, yes, sir. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, crap. So now I'm going to teach the philosophy that was taught to me by the master who taught it. Like, it was insane. So I did the presentation, and he came to the presentation. I said, I just want to let everybody know, I share this to so many people, but this is the first time I'm really nervous about it, because this is Grandmaster Kim's material that he shared with me that I'm sharing with all of you. But it was an incredible honor, and it really reinforced what you had said earlier about our purpose, and one of our driving forces is to share the wisdom and knowledge that he has shared with us. So that was a tremendous piece about it. But then fast forward, everybody else, the tour goes one way, and we jump in his car, and he takes me to his home in Korea. He drives 2-3 hours to his home. We pack up. We have tea first, and we pack up, and then we go to the mountain. Some of the most beautiful sceneries that I've ever been, with the traditional Korean style pergola, and then a big tall mountain that we climbed, and then we camped out at the top of the mountain, and we had set up camp. We had tea. He made dinner, camp style dinner, all vegetarian, and then we spent 2.5 hours of meditation from 8 o'clock. I guess maybe more like 8:30 to like 11 o'clock. Went into the tent, came out at 4 o'clock, another 2 hours of meditation. So it was challenging. And it was exhilarating at the same time. And many times I had to pinch myself. Here I am, wow, I can't believe it. Here I am sitting on the top of a mountain in Korea meditating with my Grandmaster. So it was,
which sounds like a movie, or it should be written in a book. And it's, for most people watching or listening, it's way far-fetched.
Far-fetched.
Okay, so
bring
back everyone down, and let's humanize.
I'm going to humanize it right now.
All right.
I felt like I was going for the dragon scroll in Kung Fu Panda. People were asking me, where are you going? So I'm going for the dragon scroll. But then, all right, just fast forward, and there's 3 nights of that. We went down the mountain, went to another mountain, drove me 3-4 hours to this different mountain, which you and I went to, actually. And another same thing, meditation, came down, went to another mountain, and did the same thing. And then he took me back to Seoul, Korea. But I think what was really meaningful were the conversations, right? And I think that the conversations were a complete reinforcement of what he's shown us and shared with us over the years, but it was really in practical application. So it wasn't him telling us or sharing with us. It was more of, this is why, and this is why. And one of the points I think that you and I had discussed even before we went live was how there really wasn't anything new that he taught. There wasn't any like life altering new information. It was everything that he has said and shared with us.
Consistent.
And I think that's an important lesson. Like, we all think growth is going to be, growth is going to be obtained, or success is going to be obtained by growing and doing something different or a different achievement. But it's the consistency that really, really matters. And all of it was, he said, well, this is what I recommend that you do. This, and then this, and this. And it's the same things that he's been teaching us for 10, 15, 20, 25 years, but just make sure you're consistent with it. And why is to heighten up our level of awareness. Empowered Master, we talk about the 7 different levels of awareness. Lowest level being animalistic, and you're just, fight or flight and you're surviving. Second lowest level is, the following all the masses, which what everybody else is doing. Highest level is disassociation. Disassociation meaning that the outside circumstances don't move you from your center. You get to stay centered and calm and present in the face of the biggest adversities. That is basically, if you were to capture like what was the essence of this,
yes,
was the importance of working to obtain and maintain and sustain that 7th level of awareness, disassociation. And it was funny because he asked me, and I told you this in our conversation, he asked me, like, well, when's the last time you got angry? And I said, I don't remember. I also have a short-term memory loss, maybe.
Oh, I reminded you on a previous.
I know. And then Paul says, yeah, remember the time you got, I was like, damn it. All right, I got angry. I did get angry. That was.
But you do not tap into your dark side frequently.
No, it takes extreme situations. But one of the things he said, one of the things I respect about you a lot, which was such an honor. And, one of the things I respect about you is the fact that you don't get angry.
Yeah, that's
he goes, because of that, your level is higher because you've been able to control that. And I said, well, you should see your other student, Paul. He gets angry all the time. No, I didn't say that.
Only a little bit.
Only a little bit.
Then I recharge. But I can also,
I'm going to say again,
I also use that to serve me.
I know. But I'm going to say it again.
My Darth Paul voice is my servant. Like, I use him when needed. Okay.
You control it.
I control it. It used to control me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's big. That's big. You're at a higher level too. But I will say it again, what Grandmaster Kim did say, because again, he said he misses you. He misses Grandmaster Rafella and Master, our other partners. He wants us to see him. He'd love for you to go out to Korea and do what I did with him. But he said that you are the most disciplined person he's ever met.
Which is an amazing compliment coming from him, because I always refer to myself like low-level discipline. I wish I could be as disciplined as my teacher, but that's a very nice compliment.
Well, he said, Grandmaster Malala, he doesn't think about it. He just does it. He does the action and doesn't have to go in his head back and forth. And he said, me, I have to go think about it first. And I say, sir, I'm always having that tug of war. I'm at the low level when it comes to that. I have to talk myself into it, but you don't. And I think that was exciting for me to hear and see as well, that that he definitely recognizes. And he says, I have so much respect for him. I also learned about a little dirt in there through our conversations with some other people, but that's not appropriate for our podcast. But anyway, but I think the idea of like everybody like thinking that they need something new. They need to focus on something new. They need like new information, new this. And I remember you were there. It was in my school, and he had all the top martial artists in the tri-state area. Like there were probably about 30, 40 professional martial artists there. And he says to everybody, throw a side kick, and we all throw a side kick. And then he throws a side kick, and it's like blows everybody away. Right? These are really good martial artists. And he looks at everybody and he says, you know why I'm better? And he goes, because I'm older. Right? And he goes, and I had more time to practice. And the reason is because I am consistent. And I think, keeping the main thing and being consistent in the strategies that are the basics that you need to do, but we always have this need and thirst for new information. I like the strategy or the philosophy of do what you need to do, and then just be consistent with it.
I agree, and I think there's a lot to be said about that. People are always looking for the next new shiny idea, toy, whatever. And when you really take a step back, it's just the consistency of, like you said, of the basics. Last night I was at the gym. I go now. I have the freedom to go twice a day. I do a bigger body part in the morning, and then I go back after my coaching calls, and I do a smaller body part and do conditioning, cardio, whatever. And I walked in and I saw this guy training with his teenager son, and I always make a point to give a compliment, especially when it's a father-son. And I'm like, hey, isn't it cool? Like you're training with your son. And he looked at me, he goes, no, he's training me. And I go, how old? And the kid's like 16. And I said, that's great, man. You should really absorb and be blessed that you have your dad, that you could do this with him. And the guy looks at me, goes, how old are you? And I'm like, I'm 51. He goes, man, I'm 51. You must be the guy the trainers and the manager were telling me about. I go, what do you mean? He goes, when I walked in, I told him I haven't worked out in years. I used to be this. I used to be in the military. I used to be fit. And he said the trainers and the manager started laughing. And they go, that's no excuse, man. You're going to see this little short guy with tattoos, jacked, He's a little short guy with tattoos that's jacked. He's your age, and he's in here all the time. And he goes, you must be that guy. I looked at me and go, well, I'm short, I'm jacked, thank you, and I'm tatted. So I'm 51. I must be that guy. And I said that. I said, dude, I've been training since I was your son age. I just haven't stopped.
Yeah.
I just haven't stopped. And did give a quick background of retired martial artist, had a chain of schools, blah, 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 quick little story. But, and I said, it comes down to consistency and lifestyle. And it really comes down to your standard, and I told him, I said, I have high standards for myself. One is because of my brand and my identity. And I said, there's no way in hell that I will ever have a dad bod. Just can't happen. It will never happen.
Or you could just say you're going to redefine it. Redefine that stereotype.
Well, I'm redefining what it means, just like Grandmaster Kim at 75 years old. Like he defies the odds because his standards are high. Yeah. His consistency and his habits are high. He always would tell us for 25, 30 years. And even when I was in my 20s, he'd tell us, well, you were 20, you're young, but what you do now affect you in your 30s. Yes. Oh, you're still young in your 30s. What you do now affects you in your 40s. I commend the habits I had from 40 to 49 to give me the results I have in my 50s. Yeah. You both know, right? The things that we do now in our 50s, you're past the middle.
I'm on the second half of 50s now.
You're close to the 60.
I'm close to the 60.
Yeah, bro.
I'm in the
what we
back nine of 6 to 50s.
affects us in our 60s.
Yeah.
That just comes down to compounding consistency,
Yeah.
right? So
Compounding consistency. That's a good value
compounding
for everybody.
consistency, that's what I call it, right? Just you're compounding the consistent action steps and habits that gives you the results later on in life.
Yeah.
Right. Now, a lot of any financial advisors that listen to this, whether it's investments, right, whole life insurance, you don't see those results of whole life insurance or the compounding of whole life insurance or the compounding of interest and money within a year, 2 years, 3 years. It's like 10 years later, 15 years later, 20 years later. And then you're like, oh shit, this thing that I've been doing consistency month after month, now look at it. And that's the same thing in habits in life. You know, you're making consistent deposits in your fitness. You're making consistent deposits into your intimate marriage, right? Your relationship or with your kid. And that's the ill shin philosophy. Being better every day in multiple areas of life. And what does Grandmaster Kim say? Just a little bit more.
Yeah.
Just a little bit more. You know, that means I'm like, even last night, I was repping out just a little bit more, right? You know, on the incline walk, because I got to keep up with you on a hiking thing. I don't have mountains here, but I'm on the 30 incline, maybe just a little bit more calories or a little bit more faster, you know, or a little bit more, you know, let me market here. A little bit more social media posts. That's a little bit more, right? And that's constant improvements in the ill shin philosophy. Right.
Yeah.
Because we all know, like, if you're not growing, you're what? Dying, you know? So that's a great takeaway right there.
Yeah. He also, one of the things that he asked after the seminar, it kind of lines up with what you just said, is the whole, do you remember his a little bit more? Right.
I do. I actually wrote content coming out this week. I probably wasn't exactly what his themes were, but I was in the realm of just a little bit more.
But basically, what he asked.
Go ahead.
What he asked was to put a little bit more into the ill-shin requirements, right? To put that philosophy in there and include that when we present this, when we present his material and what it is, right? A little bit more. I wrote it out. A little bit more respect and love.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit more appreciate and apologize. So we should show more appreciation. And then we should also be humble enough to be able to apologize when we should. A little bit more study. So which means growth, right? That you're looking to grow and improve. And hard work. Study and hard work a little bit more. And to give, right? He said this statement to us a long time ago. Give without memory, receive without forget. All right, but to give more, whether you're giving money to charity or whether you're giving your time or whether you're giving a little bit of a mental moment where you're recognizing somebody else, where somebody's giving you a cup of coffee and you acknowledge their name. You know, that is giving. And smile a lot more.
That's good.
Right? That's a seminar right there. So, but yeah, respect and love a little bit more, appreciate and apologize a little bit more, study and hard work a little bit more, give and smile a lot more. And he said, please share this. So if there's anything new, he said, add this to ill shin, share this to as many people because I think more people need this information. So it was it's awesome. And you know, like you said earlier, and then my training, I just wrote down what my training. Yeah. There's he wants me to go overnight training once a week and fasting, you know, so that's something that I'm gonna start.
All right, let's scare the hell out of the audience. I think there's plenty of value bombs.
Yeah, I think so. So but I think the idea is that the teachings and the ill-shin philosophy and the lifestyle is something, it's not related to martial artists. It's related to life. And I'd like to conclude is just to say, you know, you remember when we were at dinner with Grandmaster Kim and Mrs. Kim, and Grandmaster Kim said, "Yeah, I was thinking going for 8th Dan," and then Mrs. Kim looks at us and says, "No, you quit, right?" And we both laughed, and he said, "I didn't quit, but I've evolved."
Ninth.
And
He's already ninth level.
Ninth. I'm sorry, you're right, 9th. And I've evolved, and I'm training in a different manner. And I think like you reference yourself to that I quit, but I don't think you quit. He doesn't think you quit, but you've changed and evolved. You're not doing your forms or your physical elements of Taekwondo, but you being a grandmaster, you're holding more standards, higher standards than 99% of the masters and grandmasters out there. So I think you should embrace that, Coach Grandmaster Paul Malella more, because it's definitely been earned, and you continue to earn it every day.
Well,
unless you're not trying to be better every day, unless you're trying to just stay stagnant and you don't want growth.
That's not me, brother. You know that. But I thank you for kind words. I appreciate that. But I think there's a lot of value takeaway bombs, in this particular show, from the being consistent, making sure you have the compounding, the consistency, the philosophy, just a little bit more. And it's not about learning something new all the time to kind of, it's maybe just about doing the main things, doing the things that keep your foundation strong, just over time, and watch the results. It's not rocket science in most businesses and most industries. But a lot of people, I think, don't have that work ethic, that grit, to be the word disciplined, because their standard's not that high. And you heard me say this before, everyone is disciplined. Everyone's got habits.
Right.
We're either making deposits or withdrawals into our life. And so the more intentional focus you have around the habits are going to compound for the better, whether it's in your business, in your marriage, in your fitness, with your kids, or in your faith. That means we are growing. And that's the Il Shin way. And this doesn't mean that you get to the destination. It's not like you get there, like on the mountain, right? Everyone's going to remember that. This is a lifelong journey. This is self-mastery. Self-mastery. And there's no such thing as perfection. It's just a constant quest to become better each day. Right. And that's really what the philosophy is. Right.
And embracing the ride as you're going. Right. Appreciating the journey and not just going. Right. Taking the time as you're. A lot of the discussions were around being mindful. Right. So being mindful of, if we have our like the racehorse with the blinders on, we don't see what's beautiful around us. Yeah. So I think, yes, being able to grow every day, but smell the roses as you're going.
Yeah, perfect.
That's a big part of it.
Well, I think that concludes a really good exit out of our podcast show today. And I know that we're going to tune in, subscribe, like, share. The biggest compliment you can ever give us is a like and a share in our show. And we are grateful that you either listened or watched this Balanced Warrior podcast. Until next time, like we say, be better every day. Be blessed.
Right, everybody.